Thanks for stopping by, and in this video we are going to discuss the camera quality of the iPhone 11. However, instead of comparing it to other smartphones, which most channels are going to do, I'm going to compare it against cameras, actual cameras, and we are going to see at what price point the separate camera is actually better than the iPhone. And I think that this is it's a good way of estimating the value of the iPhone camera. Of course, a separate camera will always have some advantages, but I'm going to try and sort of balance it while accounting for them. And we are right now on the B&H site, and here we start with the sorting of low to high. And we are starting with an $88 camera. Now the sensor size on this is about as big as the iPhone. It has 5 times optical zoom. However, it only records at 720p, and the processing on this thing is very outdated and slow. So the iPhone will pretty much always outperform this little camera, even at 5 times zoom, most of which will be digital, but still the iPhone is going to look better in my opinion. And then we have, these are instant cameras, I'm not going to look too much at them. These are pretty much similar. This is an option from Canon, and about that price range, we can see that size of an image sensor again, only 720p recording, which means very inferior processing. So these are not going to give you anywhere near the quality of the iPhone 11, and I'm actually going to skip 1 or 2 pages and go a bit more expensive because the deal is really pretty much the same with many of these cameras, except for the zoom. There are some decent super zoom cameras at the lower price range that you might want to look into, since optical zoom is optical zoom. But here at the $268 price range, we get full HD in the cameras. I think that this still has a smaller sensor, or one that's about as big as the iPhone, but it has 20 times optical zoom. So overall image quality is still going to be much worse than the iPhone, but you have that zoom capability that the iPhone doesn't have. And this is sort of the first breaking point with the zoom, but still, if you don't account for the zoom, the iPhone is superior, and the difference is big. I've looked from footage from these cameras, and the iPhone has much better footage, especially for video. And if we go a little bit higher in price, now I'm actually going to stop scrolling these and enter a few models that I do know about. You actually get in the price range where you can get a mirrorless camera. Now, mirrorless cameras are a much more serious deal. They have much bigger sensors. That's the first thing. And what I forgot to mention were these Canon camcorders at around $400. These have 1-inch sensors, which are bigger than the iPhone, but their image quality is actually still probably not better. I cannot say for sure since I haven't really used one of these, but they probably perform around or worse than the iPhone. And now let's have a look at this mirrorless camera. Now this is the Sony Alpha A5100. It's a pretty old model, and that's a big disadvantage for it because it has that inferior color sense and image processing. It can only record 1080p, no 4K whatsoever. You can swap the lens and the sensor is absolutely huge. Now, even if you type Wikipedia and sensor size, you're going to find this image, and you can see the sizes of the sensors. Now, this is around where most smartphone sensors are. This is a 1-inch sensor, and this is the APS-C sensor on the A5100. So when it comes to low light pure capturing, this is going to do a better job, especially with a lens that's designed for that. And here is where I think it gets really, really close. However, between these two cameras, it starts depending. If you want the flexibility of a camera with a bigger sensor, swappable lenses, and a lot of manual controls, then the A5100 will win. However, if you use full auto mode, the iPhone will easily outperform this camera and will be around the level of its more expensive brother, the A6000, although it will still outperform it in 4K simply because this model also doesn't record 4K. Now, of course, we're talking about serious mirrorless cameras here, and these have a lot of other advantages. So this is around where the break point is. Maybe $450, $500 in my opinion. This is where the pocket camcorders start having these 1-inch sensors, and they probably still shoot a little worse than the iPhone, but they start getting a little more serious, and you can also get some other mirrorless or even DSLR models at that price. So at that price point, around the $500 mark, the iPhone starts having some very, very solid competition, and frankly, it will be an overestimation if we really rate its video quality capability much higher, because if we go higher in price just a little bit more, we get to the Canon M50, which is another mirrorless camera, $650. This can record 4K, although its 4K is not the best, it's very cropped, but it's still a mirrorless camera, an APS-C size sensor. It's a model from last year, so it's not too old, and it is a pretty viable choice for many people do recommend this camera. And at $600, a camera will outperform the iPhone, and with all the computational photography and videography, it still will not be able to keep up. And that leads us to the conclusion that the breaking point is around $500. And that's pretty impressive. Like, if you use the manual controls, it could be lower at around 350 or something like that. But for video, it is higher than for photos. So for photos, it might even be less than $300. But if we're talking video, the iPhone is a very serious device. And it's pretty impressive considering that the iPhone Pro, the entire phone, costs $1,000. And how much computational photography and videography has advanced. So if you've got to choose, tell me which one would you prefer. Let's go back to what I refer to as the breaking point. The Sony Alpha A5100. Would you prefer to take a video with this or the iPhone? And excuse my Activate Windows watermark. And if you did find this video useful, make sure to subscribe to the channel. I would really appreciate it. I try to upload relatively often, and yeah, if you enjoy that type of content, I would be glad to see you subscribe. And again, thank you for watching. Have a nice day.